Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. Smackdown was taped from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. They ended up taping this Smackdown that we saw tonight last week before Smackdown went live. And Smackdown, for being a tape show this week, I thought the show was decent in my opinion, but nothing big happened on the show, nothing newsworthy. But tonight, on this taped SmackDown, we saw the Bloodline. We saw Sol Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga. They have taken on Apollo Crews, Andrade, and LA Knight. We had, once again, Carmelo Hayes. He had taken on Braun Strowman. Then we had Johnny Gargano in action. He had facing off against his former best friend, Shelley. And the main event, the Women's Tag Team Championship was on the line, where Naomi and Bianca Belair defend the titles against Candice LeRae and Nia Jax. But overall, SmackDown for a tape show, it was decent, in my opinion. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, I did a movie review of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, so if you guys haven't checked out my review of that, definitely go check it out. Fun film, and I think it's the best of the three films, so check out my review of that. And also this little bit of news that was released today. So, SmackDown is going to 3 hours, starting on January 3rd. And this has been confirmed. Starting on January 3rd, SmackDown is going 3 hours on the USA Network, which we don't need. We don't need 3 hours of SmackDown. We don't even know if Monday Night Raw is going back to 3 hours when it goes to Netflix that Monday. So no confirmation about that. But we do have the confirmation for SmackDown moving to 3 hours on January 3rd on the USA Network. It will continue to air on Fridays. Of course, SmackDown has been 2 hours since it made its debut back in April of 1999. But if it gets confirmed that Monday Night Raw is going back to 3 hours when it goes to Netflix, we're going to get 3 hours of Monday Night Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown. Nobody's asking for that. Nobody's asking for 3 hours of Monday Night Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown. You add that up, it's 3 hours Monday Night Raw, and then you add on 3 hours of SmackDown, so that's 6 hours of WWE television in total. 3 hours on Monday, if that's confirmed, and 3 hours on Friday. No. We don't need it. And you add on, if you watch NXT, that's 2 hours. And then add on, AEW Dynamite. If you combine all those 3 WWE shows. So that's a lot of wrestling that, you're going to be watching. So, let's take this. Monday Night Raw. If it's confirmed that it's going back to 3 hours. So that's 3 right there. Then SmackDown. Another 3 hours there. That's 6 hours. Add on NXT, which is 2 hours. That's 8. And then you move on to AEW, which is 2 hours for Dynamite. So that's 10 hours. 10 hours in total of wrestling every single week. God help us. So much wrestling, every single week when that happens. But yeah, I just wanted to get that, news out there. Like I said, it's confirmed SmackDown is going to 3 hours. WWE end up announcing it. starting on January 3rd, where SmackDown will be in Phoenix. So starting January 3rd, we'll be seeing the first 3-hour SmackDown show. But anyway, let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with the Bloodline. The Bloodline ended up making their way down. We saw Solo Sikoa and also Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga. So we got, a replay of what we saw, last Friday, where, of course, Solo Sikoa will face Roman Reigns in a tribal combat match on the Monday Night Raw Netflix debut on January 6th. So, Solo Sikoa got on the mic. Solo Sikoa ended up telling Hartford, Connecticut to acknowledge him. And the crowd was just, chanting OTC, which, if this, this is a tape show, and that those piped in crowd chants and piped in boos, are going to run throughout the show. So, Solo Sikoa ended up addressing Roman's challenge for tribal combat. So, we had the crowd end up chanting, "What?" As Solo Sikoa was addressing Roman Reigns. And Solo Sikoa ended up telling the crowd once again that they need to acknowledge him. Sikoa then ended up asking Roman if he wants to take the tribal chief to war. So Sikoa was like, "Let's do it." Sikoa ended up saying that he will leave his bloodline behind for the match if Roman will keep his crew away as well. And Sikoa ended up saying that he will promise that he will beat Roman on January 6th. So Sikoa ended up telling Roman that after he's done, he can get back on his boat and sail away to the island of irrelevancy. So then Drew McIntyre ended up coming out. Drew McIntyre ended up interrupting Solo Sikoa. McIntyre walked down the ramp, and he ended up getting into the ring. He stared the Bloodline down. So Sikoa ended up giving McIntyre some credit for what McIntyre did to Jimmy Uso and the original Bloodline. And McIntyre then ended up posing the question to Sikoa of whether he asks himself at night, when is McIntyre coming after me? So McIntyre ended up knowing that Sikoa is the one who cost him a shot at the Undisputed WWE Championship a while back, acknowledging that at some stage they have the same goals. McIntyre ended up saying that he reckons he'll keep taking out the original Bloodline members, and that Sikoa does him a favor by taking out Roman Reigns for good. So McIntyre ended up saying once they settle their own bits of business, they can settle things between them. So then McIntyre was quickly blindsided by Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso ended up bringing McIntyre out of the ring, and LA Knight's music ended up hitting. LA Knight came out along with Apollo Crews and Andrade. They ended up rushing to the ring, which led to a brawl between Knight, Crews, Andrade, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga, which that led into their match as SmackDown came back from the commercial. But overall, this was a decent opening to SmackDown here. Really like that Drew McIntyre was addressing what he did to the original Bloodline and that he's going to handle business before he deals with Solo Sikoa. So I like that, the paths are crossing here. But decent opening to the show. Then we had the Bloodline. We had Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga versus LA Knight, Apollo Crews, and Andrade. And this was a decent match here, but the match did not need to go on as long as it did because this could have been a squash match if either, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, or Tama Tonga would have pinned Apollo Crews or Andrade. Could have been, just a quick squash match. So as SmackDown came back from the commercial, the match was already in progress. Apollo Crews and Tama Tonga were going at it. Apollo Crews ended up making a tag to LA Knight. Knight got into the ring and he started to go to work on Tama Tonga. And then Knight tagged in Andrade. So Andrade ended up making a tag to Apollo Crews. Andrade and Crews ended up double teaming up on Tama Tonga. So we had Apollo Crews end up going for the cover, and Tama Tonga end up kicking out. Knight end up getting back in, and he made the tag to Andrade, who ended up sending Tama Tonga to the outside. Jacob Fatu tried to get involved, but he ended up getting sent to the outside as well. And this led to a double dive from both Apollo Crews and Andrade to Jacob Fatu. So Knight was the legal man here. So Tama Tonga was back in the ring, and he ended up making a tag to Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu delivered some offense on LA Knight. So then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Solo Sikoa is now the legal man, and he was in control over Apollo Crews. Sikoa ended up bringing Crews into the corner. He started delivering some more strikes to Crews, and he kept Crews from making the tag. And Solo Sikoa ended up making the tag to Jacob Fatu, and Jacob Fatu started, delivering some offense on Crews. So Crews ended up then making a tag to Andrade. Andrade ended up clearing, the Bloodline off the apron. He ended up taking out Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. He then hit a crossbody on Jacob Fatu, who ended up crawling to the corner. And we had Jacob Fatu end up being met with a run strike by Andrade. So we had Andrade end up going for the cover, and Jacob Fatu ended up kicking out. Andrade then ended up going up to the top. He was looking to go for the moonsault, but Jacob Fatu ended up rolling away. But Jacob Fatu was then caught with a standing moonsault by Andrade, which Andrade ended up going for the cover, and Jacob Fatu ended up kicking out. Tama Tonga ended up rushing into the ring, and then Jacob Fatu ended up sending Andrade to the ropes, and he hanged Andrade up on the top rope, and he was assisted from Solo Sikoa. Andrade was then attacked outside the ring. He then ended up being brought back in, and Jacob Fatu ended up going for the cover, to which Andrade ended up kicking out. So then SmackDown went to commercial once again. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Jacob Fatu was still in control of the match. He ended up beating down Andrade in the corner. He knocked Apollo Crews off the apron. Jacob Fatu then ended up charging Andrade, and he narrowly evaded a hip attack. And then Andrade ended up hitting Jacob Fatu with an enziguri. And Andrade then made the tag to LA Knight. Tama Tonga then ended up tagging in. And Tama Tonga was then taken out with a clothesline by Knight. Knight was then stopped away at Tama Tonga in the corner. Solo Sikoa then ended up getting involved, but he was taken down with a neckbreaker by LA Knight. Knight then tagged in Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews went up to the top for a splash onto Tama Tonga. So Apollo Crews went for the cover, and Tama Tonga kicked out. LA Knight ended up running to the outside to deal with Solo Sikoa. And while Knight was dealing with Solo Sikoa, he was attacked by Shinsuke Nakamura. So Nakamura ended up laying out Knight on the outside. Solo Sikoa ended up heading back into the ring, and he tagged himself in, and he delivered a running hip attack and a Uranagi on Apollo Crews. Solo Sikoa then ended up following all that up with a Samoan spike on Apollo Crews. So Solo Sikoa ended up going for the cover, and there you go. The Bloodline ended up winning the match. which not surprised there. But overall, decent match it was, but the match, like I said, it didn't need to go on as long as it did, in my opinion. But like I said, decent match it was. And then we saw Byron Saxton. Byron Saxton was interviewing the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Alex Shelley ended up telling Byron Saxton that he has only one thing on his mind tonight, and that's getting payback on Johnny Gargano. And we had them end up saying that they've known Gargano for 20 years, and now he wants to show his true colors. Alex Shelley ended up saying that he considered Gargano a little brother, but he's going to learn that he made the biggest mistake of his life. Alex Shelley ended up saying that he needs to do this by himself, and he's curious to see if Gargano is willing to fight his own battles. So pretty much that was basically what Alex Shelley had to say. And then we got a recap of Chelsea Green winning the Women's United States Championship last Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event. Chelsea Green becoming the first female to win the title. So then they end up playing an interview with Byron Saxton. After the show, Byron Saxton was interviewing Chelsea Green. So Chelsea Green ended up telling Byron Saxton that following Saturday Night's Main Event, that she always knew this moment was going to happen sooner or later. Chelsea ended up saying that she's been doing this for over 10 years, and that this is her time. And she was like, oh, this is red, white, and green. She ended up saying that she's in the history books, where she belongs. She ended up saying that now is the time to get the respect that she deserves. So, because she ended up winning the Women's United States Championship, she said that she was going to celebrate by going to Disneyland. So, that was what Chelsea Green had to say. So, we saw that, interview, after Saturday Night's Main Event, went off the air. And then we saw Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa was with Johnny Gargano. Ciampa ended up calling Alex Shelley dumb for requesting this match. Johnny Gargano ended up telling Ciampa that he is not going to let Shelley question his manhood. Gargano ended up telling Ciampa to stay in the back, and that his dream came true. He ended up saying that he's going to show Shelley that he's Johnny Wrestling. So Ciampa ended up telling Gargano that he won't move a muscle. So there you go. That was basically that. And then we had a promo from Kevin Owens after what he did when Saturday Night's Main Event went off the air, where he ended up pile driving Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes had to be stretchered out of the arena. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that what happened was not his fault. He ended up saying that he blames WWE's management for what happened, claiming that he was screwed out of the Undisputed WWE Championship. He ended up saying what happened to him was a travesty, a tragedy, and that he should be the champion. So Kevin Owens was like, he's not the champion, but he took the Winged Eagle belt. He ended up saying that he's keeping it until he gets what he wants. Owens ended up saying that he hasn't snapped yet, but it could be much worse. He ended up saying what happens next is on WWE and the management. So that was what Kevin Owens had to say. But he wants another shot at the championship. And then we had the Grayson Waller effect. We had Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. They were in the ring. Of course, Grayson Waller ended up welcoming the guest on the Grayson Waller effect, and that is the monster of all monsters, Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman came out. He was looking all festive. He was tossing presents into the crowd when he made his way down to the ring. And of course, we saw a replay of the match that we saw last week where he just pretty much dominated on Carmelo Hayes. It was just a squash match. Typical Braun Strowman match. So Grayson Waller and Austin Theory end up quietly asking for their presents from Braun Strowman. He ended up thanking Braun Strowman for helping the poor people of Hartford, to which that pissed off Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman was like, oh, you're going to start off like that? You want to piss me off right away? I'm coming out here spreading Christmas cheer, and you're going to act like that? So Grayson Waller was like, oh, you're right. You are the biggest acquisition in SmackDown history, on the biggest talk show in SmackDown history. He kept saying that it all makes sense. So Braun Strowman was like, oh, how could it get any better than this, baby? So Grayson Waller was like, oh, before we start, I know how this goes sometimes. I just want to let you know that I invested a lot of money on the new set. And I spent a lot of money. So maybe we could continue to spread Christmas cheer and have a civil conversation. So Braun Strowman was like, well, you could run those smart mouths of yours, and I can promise you, I'll wear you both out with all this stuff in here. So Grayson Waller was like to Braun Strowman, to be honest, I'm very surprised you agreed to come on the show. I don't know if anyone told you this before, but you're a little intimidating. So Grayson Waller called Braun Strowman a little intimidating. So Grayson Waller was like, but the more that I think about it, the more it made sense, because you understand the benefit of associating with A-Town Down Under. So Braun Strowman was like, well, I think I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. So Grayson Waller was like, SmackDown is very scary right now, and it's very dangerous backstage. He kept saying that the Bloodline is running wild, and people are getting attacked back and forth. So Braun Strowman was like, do you forget who you're talking to? So Grayson Waller was like, I just thought it might be a good idea if you look after you for once, and you set up the Ultimate Alliance. How about this? Braun Strowman and A-Town Down Under on the same team. So Grayson Waller was like, oh, well, we could be untouchable. Just imagine it. Picture it out there. Our cunning, our intelligence, your strength, the brains, and brawn. So Braun Strowman was like, I told you to watch your tongue. You want this set shoved right up your ass? So then Carmelo Hayes came out. Carmelo Hayes was like, cut all this out. I got a bone to pick with you. Carmelo Hayes ended up saying to Strowman that last week, you thought Nick Aldis was going to humble me and put me against you. Everybody here and everybody at home knew that wasn't fair and that I wasn't ready. So Carmelo Hayes was like, newsflash, Nick Aldis, you can't humble greatness. Carmelo Hayes was like, I might lose, but I'll never quit. So Braun, you big, ugly, dumb Santa Claus bitch, let's run this thing back right here, right now, because now I'm ready. So Braun Strowman ended up saying to Carmelo Hayes, oh, well, you didn't learn your lesson last week. Well, let me remind you of one thing. Let me tell you what the Braun effect is. So Braun Strowman got up and he destroyed the Grayson Waller effect set. He threw the trees to the outside of the ring to Carmelo Hayes. And pretty much that was basically that. Overall, just a very meh segment this was. Did not even care for it. So then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had the rematch. Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Strowman. Well, this match went on, a bit, longer than last week's match, which was just a squash match. It was just your typical Braun Strowman match. So Carmelo Hayes ended up trying to take Braun Strowman down. He had pinned to the ropes to stop Braun Strowman's momentum. Braun Strowman sent Carmelo Hayes into the ropes, but Carmelo Hayes ended up sliding out of the ring to take a breather. Braun Strowman left the ring, and he was cut off by Carmelo Hayes, who ended up getting the upper hand on Strowman. Strowman then shoved Carmelo Hayes away. He ended up forcing him back out of the ring. Carmelo Hayes was brought back into the ring by Braun Strowman the hard way. Strowman ended up bringing Carmelo Hayes back up. He was looking to go for the choke slam to Hayes, but Carmelo Hayes ended up kicking Strowman, and Hayes started taunting the crowd. This gave Braun Strowman a chance to rise to his feet. Carmelo Hayes ended up managing to send Braun Strowman back to the outside. So we had the ref counting as both Braun Strowman and Carmelo Hayes were going at it on the outside. So the ref ended up reaching 9, and Braun Strowman ended up launching Carmelo Hayes over the ropes. And then the ref counted to 10, and Braun didn't get back in the ring. He was on the apron. So the ref called for the bell, and Carmelo Hayes ended up winning the match by countout. What a stupid ending to this match here. So there's Braun Strowman launches Carmelo Hayes over the ropes, and then Braun Strowman's just on the ring apron. Ref counts to 10. Oh, count out. What a stupid way to end this. Carmelo Hayes wins by count out. Stupid. And then we had Nia Jax and Candice LeRae backstage. Nia Jax and Candice LeRae were talking about their Women's Tag Team Championship match against Naomi and Bianca Belair later on in the night. Timothy Stratton ended up walking in. And Stratton ended up wishing Candice LeRae and Nia Jax good luck in the match. So Stratton ended up saying that she can't wait to be there to celebrate when both Nia Jax and Candice LeRae win the titles. Candice ended up saying that her and Nia agreed that Stratton needed to stay away from this one and to stay in the back. So pretty much that was basically that. So pretty much these segments tonight has been oh no, you can't be at ringside tonight. All right, we'll stay in the back. That's all these segments were tonight. Oh, you can't be out there, so stay in the back. We want it to be one-on-one or, 2-on-2 in that tag team match for the women's tag team titles. So then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Braun Strowman. He ran into Legado del Fantasma and Pretty Deadly. Pretty awful. Because he was chasing after Carmelo Hayes. So Angel ended up trying to misdirect Carmelo Hayes. And Pretty Deadly ended up wanting them to look at their musical. Then Carmelo Hayes blindsided Braun Strowman with a steel chair. And Carmelo Hayes ran off with Strowman chasing him again. And that was that. Then we had Johnny Gargano versus Alex Shelley. Two former friends going at it here, which I thought this was a good match between Gargano and Alex Shelley. So the match got underway. Gargano ended up charging at Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley ended up getting the upper hand. Gargano ended up managing to fight out of the corner. And Alex Shelley ended up catching Gargano by surprise. He took Gargano down to the canvas. Gargano started to fight back with a kick to Shelley's head. He then ended up bringing Shelley into the corner, and he started stomping away at Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley started to fight back, and he ended up sending Gargano out of the ring. He ended up catching Gargano with a kick to his face, and Shelley ended up diving onto Gargano from the apron, and then SmackDown with the commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Alex Shelley was in control of the match. He ended up taking Gargano into the corner, but he was met with a jawbreaker delivered by Gargano. So both guys were on the apron. Gargano ended up mocking Shelley. He ended up setting Shelley up on his shoulders, to which Shelley ended up countering out, and he intercepted Gargano with a thrust kick. Gargano got back to his feet, and he was met with some chops from Alex Shelley. Alex Shelley then followed up with a kick to the back of Gargano. Shelley ended up catching Gargano with a near fall of his own, and then Shelley ended up locking in the armbar on Gargano, but Gargano ended up escaping. Gargano fought back to his feet. We had both guys end up trading strikes. Gargano ended up hitting Shelley with Enziguri and a kick to Shelley. He ended up sending Shelley up on his shoulder, and then he sent Shelley face first to the turnbuckle. So Gargano ended up going for the cover, and Shelley ended up kicking out. So Shelley ended up going up to the top later on. Ciampa ended up rushing down to give out to Shelley, and Chris Sabin ended up coming out, and he started to intervene on Ciampa. So this distraction ended up allowing Gargano to roll Alex Shelley up. And so there you go. Johnny Gargano ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a good match between Johnny Gargano and Alex Shelley here. With a little goofy finish. But overall, good match it was. And then we saw Bianca Belair and Naomi backstage. Byron Saxton was interviewing them. Bianca Belair and Naomi end up talking about Jade Cargill being attacked and how Naomi is filling in to help defend the Women's Tag Team Championship against Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. Bianca then offered one of the belts to Naomi, but she ended up saying not until she's earned it. So the match ended up getting underway, which was the main event. Bianca Belair and Naomi versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae for the Women's Tag Team Championship. And this was a okay match here. Match started off with Bianca Belair and Candice LeRae. We had Candice LeRae end up fighting off Bianca. Bianca ended up lifting Candice up out of the corner. And Nia ended up tagging in. So Tiffany Stratton was watching the match from backstage. Bianca ended up getting back on the offense on Nia Jax, but Nia Jax ended up fighting back against Bianca. Bianca ended up making a tag to Naomi, and Naomi and Bianca ended up double teaming on Nia Jax. Candice LeRae then got involved, and it led to a brawl between all four women. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had Bianca Belair in control of the match. She ended up delivering some offense on Candice LeRae. Nia Jax ended up coming back in to wear Bianca down. Nia Jax ended up taking Bianca down to the canvas. She ended up driving a knee into Bianca's back. And she ended up sending Bianca into the corner. Nia Jax then delivered a snapmare on Bianca. So later on in the match, Tiffany Stratton ended up making her way down the ramp with her briefcase in hand. Candice ended up taking Bianca back down for a cover, to which Naomi ended up breaking up the pin before she ended up getting the tag. But the ref didn't see Naomi make the tag. So the ref ended up forcing Naomi back to the apron. Nia Jax ended up calling for Stratton to hand her the briefcase for her to use as a weapon. Stratton ended up giving the briefcase to Nia Jax, which led to the ref catching Nia Jax with the briefcase. So Nia Jax ended up getting knocked off the apron by Bianca. And Nia Jax was busted open, here in the match at this point. So Bianca ended up making a tag to Naomi. Bianca delivered a crossbody to Nia Jax on the floor. Naomi ended up taking Candice LeRae down with a split-legged moonsault, to which she ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Bianca Belair and Naomi win the match, and they still retain the Women's Tag Team Championship. But that was how SmackDown ended tonight. Overall, okay match it was. And SmackDown, being taped, yeah, felt that way at times, but the matches were good to decent, in my opinion. But overall, decent SmackDown it was. But anyway, that's it for the SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and like I said earlier, if you haven't seen my movie review of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, definitely go check that out. And until next video, I'll see you all later.